So to all of our friends on Facebook and YouTube online, thank you very much for joining us. We are back at the Torch Center. So it's really a great celebration to be here. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, but we're deeply grateful to all of those who assisted in the demolition after the flood and getting the place back in order. Both, getting the floors done, to Hertz Furniture that helped remove all of our furniture, clean whatever was, able to be cleaned, and stored everything till today, and they sent everything back. We still got way to go. We still have half the places still not in order, but we're back, and I'm very excited that today is the first class back at the center. It's been 92 days that we've been out of commission here at the center. We're deeply grateful to Rabbi Yacobian at Congregation Torah V'Chesed for opening up his doors to us and for allowing our class to visit many of our classes to meet there. And we're also grateful to Genesis Steakhouse for hosting our Friday Lunch and Learn. That's also going to be back at the center. So all of our programs are coming back, and we're really, really excited. That's right. So, the topic we spoke about 2 weeks ago, as many of you know, last week I was not teaching this class. I was not here to teach this class because I was in the hospital having a little baby. So, Baruch Hashem, with gratitude to Hashem, we have a beautiful little baby girl, Hadassah. She's exactly a week old, and it's really very exciting for us. Now we have 3 November babies and 3 October babies. So, and that's right, and 3 girls. The girls are catching up. So, and of course my daughter is in April with me. So we're talking about the topic of willpower. Okay? What is this willpower? So we discussed it in great detail last week, and we're going to continue doing that this class. It's that not letting things get in your way. It's a determination. It's a deep desire to do something, to accomplish something, to attain something. And when someone has that will, there's nothing in the world that stands in the way. We see ein davar ha'omed lifnei Ratzon, right? Our sages tell us there's nothing that stands in the way of someone who wills something. The Talmud tells us b'derech she'adam rotzeh lelech bo malichin, in the way in which a person wants to go, he's led that way. Someone who comes to purify himself, they, from above, give him the assistance to do so. Someone who comes to defile themselves, they open the door. They're not going to help you out. They'll open the door. You want to go, go. And the idea is that we have the greatest gift given to mankind is free will. We have free will. And free will gives us the ability to choose to do whatever we want, to spend our time exactly how we want to spend our time, and to invest our energies and to focus our career and to decide how much time we spend with our family versus how much time we spend in our job, and how much time we spend on the computer, and how much time we spend visiting friends. And all of these things are decisions that we make. It's our own free will. And if a person is infused with a will, they will make sure to focus their energies in the areas that are important to them. So to have a willpower that is also aligned with the will of Hashem, right, is the greatest thing.
Right.
Is that it's not only you have a will, but your will is also aligned with the Almighty. Yes, of course, God will assist in everything that you do to get there. God will guide you and lead you and help you succeed in your way. At the end of the day, when someone really wants something, good, bad, or ugly, they will get it. If they really will it. Right? And we brought a few examples of some athletes who were told by their coaches in high school, various different individuals who they got that will, and nothing stops them. Nothing in the world stops them. Right? It's like you see that basketball player going for the basket, and he's like, he doesn't get it there, 4 people in his way. He'll just crush them all, right? And just get to the basket, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's complimentary midot and proper way for a person to act, but I think it's a way for us to understand that when someone really has the will to accomplish something, they'll get there. Okay, and that's not letting things get in the way. Okay. So we also said that when a person has will, one of the great quotes from statements from our presidents, right, of the past, was that the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. When someone has will, when they want something, when they want to get something done, fear doesn't play isn't a factor. Yes.
You haven't mentioned the negative part of all of this. I guess you're getting to that.
I will, but what do you think about is the negative?
Well, the negative would be when the will is not aligned with us.
Oh, 100%. But then it's different in the sense that true that when someone has a will which is opposed to the will of Hashem, they're not going to get assistance for that will. I mean, will generally is a force, it's a power that gets the assistance from God. Not always. Right? If it's against the will of Hashem, God doesn't help you. The door is open, you can do as you wish. Right? And that's also an amazing thing, that the whole idea that we have free will, and that same free will that God gives us as a gift could be used against the Almighty Himself. Right? You know that someone is rebelling against you, someone is betraying you, and you let them do it. They do it with your own money. You give your child allowance, and all they're doing is, buying razors to cut your tires. It's like you're using my money to do things to hurt me. It doesn't make any sense. God gives us free will, and we use that free will to go against Him, perhaps. Right? It's a crazy thing. But the amazing part of it is that doesn't cause us to have our hands chopped off. God doesn't say, you know what? You're not keeping your half of the bargain. Out, power off, dead. Right? God doesn't do that. God says, you know what? I believe in you. Right? What we need to gain is, I think a very important thing, when we get inspired by something, right? You go to a class, you hear a lecture, you watch a video online that's very inspiring, it touches you, you start crying, right? Okay, now what? Right? What many people fail to do is infuse an action to associate with that inspiration. So it's not enough to be inspired. Inspired to do what? Now go do it. Immediately, our sages tell us when you have a moment of inspiration, don't let it expire. They use the term expire. Don't let it. It has an expiration date. They say that for fundraising purposes, they say that people are able to remember an experience, a fundraising. So people come to an event, they come to a dinner, not even a dinner. People go to the Super Bowl, right? They go to the Super Bowl, a magnificent event. How long do they still feel that excitement, that joy? Not more than 72 hours. That means if you want to reach out to follow up with people, you have exactly 72 hours following the event. Otherwise, it's gone. You're reminding them of something that happened a year ago, right? That's the way. That was the case 15 years ago. That was what studies said 15 years ago. Today, I believe it's probably even less. Because we're living in such a transient world where, things are changing so fast, so rapidly. What's today brand new in 6 months is ancient. Right? You buy your iPhone today. I don't know. I don't use iPhones. I'm sorry. But right, you buy an iPhone today. In 6 months, it's going to be not obsolete, but it's ready. There's the new model. Right? So that to keep that freshness, to keep that inspiration, when you're inspired about something, don't say, you know what? In a week I'll get to it. No. You have an inspiration. You go to a lecture, and the whoever it is, the lecturer, the rabbi, of your synagogue talks about pure speech, or talks about praying with the proper intensity. They talk about learning Torah, the study of Torah. They talk about the observance of mitzvahs. About So he spoke very nicely. It's very nice, right? And to many people, that's the way. That's the extent of it. The rabbi spoke well, and I move on with life. But if we really want to harness this power that we're talking about of will, we have to take it immediately and put it into action. How am I going to take this inspiration and put it into something positive? You know how? Immediately, it's what in the Mussar world we call a Kabbalah. A Kabbalah means an acceptance of a future positive action. So it's not enough to talk about humility. In what way am I going to be humble? You know what? The next time I have an urge to show off, to be braggadocious, to be, to say, some great accomplishment that I've accomplished, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'll keep it to myself. Right? But to immediately take on that acceptance. Not to wait and say, you know what? Sometime I'll think it over again, because that sometime doesn't happen. It's interesting. My grandfather would always frown at us when we would record. Not that he wouldn't say it was a problem. We used to bring, we used to have cassette recorders, right? And we would record his lectures.
Rabbi, you write notes?
And he always, I said, do you mind that I record? He said, you can record. Like, it's not going to help you anything anyway. Right? And the truth is that it doesn't help. Yeah, you may be able to review it, and there are lectures and discourses I've heard 20, 30 times, but it'll never be as powerful. Even 20, 30 times will never be as powerful as one time listening with your ear, writing down the notes, understanding what he's saying. Right? It won't be the same. I once walked into my grandfather's house, and he was so excited. I remember my grandfather was always a happy person. He had an incredible sense of humor. But this one time, he was just like so elated with joy. And I asked him, what's going on? Why are you so excited? He said, I just understood a lecture that my rabbi said 50 years ago. He had just understood what he really meant. Right? To us, to think of a lecture that we heard 50 years ago, right? I don't remember what he said. I remember he spoke something. He remembered every word he said. Every word his rabbi said he knew, but he was trying to understand what was the meaning behind it. That's because he didn't have a tape recorder. He didn't have something else to say, you know what, I don't need to listen, I have somebody else listening for me. There's actually a comedy routine that was done in some yeshiva. It was very funny. So what they did is the rabbi's about to start giving a lecture, and the students are all there. You see the footage of the rabbis about to give the lecture, and all the students come with their recorders. They put the recorders there, and one by one they all leave the room because they have their recorders. They're gonna, the recorders. They all leave the room. So as soon as they all leave, the rabbi pulls a recorder out and presses play, right?
And he leaves.
And he left the room, right? Right. So the recorder is speaking to the recorder. But the truth is that they had this ability to take a lesson and apply it and understand it and investigate it and live it not just to hear it, it goes in one ear, out the other. Oh, so nice, it's great, it's so heartwarming, right? I love the way the rabbi speaks, right? And it feels so good, right? That's not what it's about. It's about how is this having an impact on me? And if it's not having an impact, it's a problem. Right? So will is the tool that needs to be used to bring things to action. If someone really wants to change the way they pray, change the way they act, change the way they react, change the way they learn, change the way they spend their time, right? All they need to do is to make a decision. I'm going to do this. And then they do it. Yeah, you may need to take some steps. There are things you're always going to have obstacles that are going to come your way as you get started. So you start on that diet. You say, that's it. I'm going to lose 20 pounds, right? Now we're done with Thanksgiving, right? I became more stuffed than the turkey was, right? And now I just want, okay. And what are you going to do to make it happen? So for many people like myself, you get a membership, right? But then you don't need to go because I got the membership. It's like putting the recorder. It's like putting the recorder there, right? I record the class and I don't need to listen, right? I bought the membership. That's already my step. No, you got to go and resolve to get it done. And when a person resolves to get it done, nothing is going to stand in their way. And there's nobody that we know that tried and gave it everything and failed. They gave it everything and they succeeded. Now, if they didn't succeed, more likely than not, they either didn't give it their all or it was unattainable. Right? There's no way in the world I can compete with Michael Phelps in swimming. As much as I love swimming and as quickly as I swim, it's impossible for me to compete with him. You know why? Because he's more than 10 years younger than me. Right? And he's just... you just can't. There's no way in the world. Nobody goes into.
That's the only reason?
That's one of the reasons.
Also, didn't you just turn 40?
You're turning. Yeah, next birthday.
Oh, okay. Turning.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Old man. I was just looking at the videos. I was looking at the one that I did yesterday. And I was like, I'm really getting old. Look at this. Right? Okay, so drive helps a person run over all fear, all worries, all the what ifs, all of the uncertainty, right? All of the challenges that we create for ourselves are gone when someone really wills something, right? What's going to be, when you really will it, there's no what's going to be. There's no what if. Okay, so will, it has a special secret power. We don't exactly understand its source and what causes will, because if we knew the source of what causes a will, then we'd use it all the time. But there are people that we know who have a will to do something in many different areas and get it done in many different areas. And there are those who, in no area, can they activate that will. Right? Now, for many people, it's circumstances. For many people, it could be just the fact that they've never been taught. They've never been taught to fight for their will. Fight for it. Put yourself out there and go get it done.
Is it learned?
It's not learned, it's trained. And in Mussar, one of the tools that we use, we spoke about dozens of different traits already, and one of the things that we've discussed so many times is, if you want to change a certain trait, it's not going to come knocking on your door, say, you know what, I'm Mr. Arrogance that's been bothering you, and it's time to get rid of me, right? It has to come from within. And when a person really investigates, I'm sure we've all had this similar experience where we were inspired about something, okay? I'll tell you, I've gotten probably 4 or 5 emails or text messages in the past 24 hours from people sharing with me Amazon videos, meaning either about the warehouse or about the founder and CEO of Amazon, and just talking about what a remarkable company has been created from thin air. It's amazing, right? It's a concept that an individual had, and today it's the biggest retail operation in the world. It's unbelievable. There was a will, and that's what people are fascinated with. We hear all of these inspirational, emotional stories about people and their success. What was the one ingredient they possessed? Will. Right? You see, I'm sure you may have seen this of people who are missing their limbs, and they have an annual swimathon or something. They themselves swim. You see people without their hands. How can they do it? Right? We ask ourselves, how can they do it? You know why they can do it? Because they really, really want to do it. And not having those arms, not having those legs doesn't stop them. On the contrary, it gives them all the more will. I'm not going to be different. I'm going to be able to go swim, notwithstanding the fact that I can't hold myself up myself.
So,
Yeah.
where would motivation fall with will? Since it seems like if you're motivated by something, then you can actually have better will.
So I think motivation is what is inspired when we have that will. So the will is setting the goal, right? And the motivation is what's going to help us, propel us to get to that goal. But I think that it's such a fundamental concept that we need to really harness. I remember I was once in a lecture, it shook me up. This is one of those shake-up moments in your life where the rabbi said, when you're going to be a certain age, I don't remember what it was, what's going to be with you? Right? That was the discussion that was being, it was a very powerful idea. What's going to be? What are you doing today as a 15-year-old, as a 17-year-old, as a 20-year-old, as a 25, as a 50-year-old, the age, to ensure that when in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, you'll be what you want to be and not what by default, happens.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that the difference between the people who are leaders and successful people versus people who are just followers is that those who are leaders have an investment in making a decision where they want to go versus what do you want to do with your life? I have no idea. Haven't thought about it. Yeah, I'll get a good job, I guess, right? And we know, we've all met people of both of these types. People who, you call them up, they say, if you want something to get done, ask a busy person. Right? Busy people get things done, right? You have other people that have all the time in the world, they can never get it done, right? It's that motivation. They're people who are, they're not only trained, but they have this willpower, and this force, this power to get it done. Yes.
Okay, so behind the will, though, I'm thinking there needs to be, you need to understand why you want to do this. And then you can figure out maybe how you can do it. But I think it's important to figure out why. Why
Right.
you want to.
Right. So the number of things. So the number of different inspirations that we have. Some of the inspirations are intellectual, but that's the minority. Right? You see, people don't use their brains that much. Right? If they did, no advertisement would ever work, okay? Because the reason they have advertisements is to get you emotionally attracted to something, and that way you'll just buy it, right? If they see that, it's funny. I was just watching a little clip they had on a certain video camera, right? So it didn't say much about the camera, but it showed about a family smiling. So why would they put such a video there, right? Because they say, oh, I want to have a family that's smiling, so I have to get this camera, right? That's the way people work, right? That's the way people work, and that's how. It's not the intellectual generally, but it should be. You're right, 100%. But when we do it intellectually, when we make a decision, and we say, you know what, I'm heading a certain direction because this is the right direction for me to go in, what's the inspiration behind it? So there are different types of people. There are people who don't need that inspiration. They don't need to have the emotional inspiration, right? It's the right thing, I'm going to do it because it's the right thing. But then you have the people who, even though they know it's the right thing, they lost the excitement, they lost the energy, they lost the vision, right? So yeah, they were once on board, now they're not. That could come from laziness, that can come from apathy, that could come from just being disinterested. Yeah.
So how do you justify leaders that are evil people? I mean, we follow Jim Jones, and we have followers of Adolf Hitler, and we have followers of a lot of real evil of real evil people, even though they're leaders and they have a will to destroy, and people follow them.
So we are, by and large, the majority of the world are followers. They're not leaders. The majority of the world.
So why do we gravitate?
Well, one second. Let me give you an example, okay? Every time I go to my synagogue, one of my synagogues that I'm a member at, and I see cars parked on the street, right? I know that there are some parking spots available inside, right? Why? But and I remember my son was asking me once. He says, "But I don't understand. There are 30 cars out in the street. Why do you think there's a parking spot in the parking spot?" I said, "Because one guy parked on the street, so everybody followed, assuming, right? They didn't. They're not. Right? Do you understand? It's a herd mentality.
Yeah.
The majority of the world. By the way, in marketing school, that's what they talk about. They talk about that herd mentality because that's the way. When they see that the cool people are wearing certain shoes, they don't ask if it's comfortable or not. They don't care if it's comfortable or not. The cool people are wearing it. We're gonna wear it, right? We're gonna buy it. That's what happened with Hush Puppies, and that's what happened with all these other companies.
After you learn this stuff, I mean, we learn this stuff. We know this stuff. We've heard you say this many times. So we're not doing this anymore.
Who's not?
Who's the we?
I'm not buying anything that's advertised.
There you go. Success. There we go. Success.
Well, you don't want to go to the other extreme, but you want to be discerning.
Yeah.
So,
then,
yeah.
when you say apathy, so then how do you counteract the apathy that is pushing you away from doing?
Yeah.
You mean, how do you get back into a situation of inspiration?
Yeah.
So you have to go back into why you were inspired to begin with. Why were you inspired to begin with? Now, again, the Torah gives us commandments. It's an interesting thing. The Torah gives us a commandment to follow the laws of Hashem, right? It happens to be that by following the laws of Hashem, there's the most beautiful life, both for a family, both for a couple, for children. All of the wonderful qualities of life are built into a Torah life. All of the beautiful things that everybody in the world desires is all in the practice of Torah. But God doesn't say keep the Shabbos because it's beautiful. God says keep the Shabbos, right? It happens to be it's the source of all blessing. It happens to be it's the most incredible time. You'll have every study in the world that will show you that taking one day off a week, right, to focus on yourself, to focus on God, to focus on your family, to focus on your spouse and your children, right, is the most healthy and the most productive way to live a life. I can show you a study, but that's not why we do. There are several. There's one reason why we observe the mitzvahs, because God commanded us. Now, it just so happens to be that there's also a joy in observing the mitzvahs. There's also a pleasure that comes with observing the mitzvahs. But that's not why we do it. Right? It's an added benefit. But there's some people who are not at that point to just say, oh, God said, so I'm going to do it. God says jump, I ask how high. Not everyone's ready to do that. So what's with those people? You need inspiration. So there's two parts of that inspiration. Number one is that they know that it's the right thing to do because God said to do it. Right? But they're inspired because of a story. They're inspired because they like the way the home is and they want to have the same thing. They like the way the marriage is. They want to have the same thing. They like the way the children are. They want to have the same thing. They like a wholesome, happy environment, so they want the same thing. Right? So that's where inspiration comes from. Right? When you watch a TED Talks, and you hear this incredible story how this person came from nothing and they were homeless and now they're worth $1 gazillion, right? Right? So you say to yourself, wow, I can't believe it. This person really got it together. I want to do the same thing. It means they inspire within us a desire to be somewhat like them. Right? Right? You take a guy like the CEO the founder and CEO of any of these big Fortune 500 companies, and you'll find the same thread. They started with absolutely nothing, an idea, a will. More than an idea, it was a will. It was people told them it's going to fail. People are still telling them, by the way, it's going to fail. Notwithstanding the CEO of Amazon being the wealthiest man alive today,
$80 billion.
over 100. Over 100, okay? Over 100 billion. Notwithstanding that, people still say, oh, Amazon's a failure. Right? So yeah, you'll always have, you know what, you set a goal of I'm gonna lose this weight. And even then you'll have people who will be doubting you and people who will be questioning you, but it's not about the other people, it's about yourself. You have to have your own motor, your own engine, your own inspiration within yourself. And go get them.
Yeah, you know what just popped into my mind is that putting a stumbling block before a blind person. And if you're feeling down and you're not motivated, somebody, have this, I have alcoholism in my family, and you wouldn't offer a beer to my dad. I mean, you just don't do that. Oh, just have one little glass of wine.
I was just going to offer you a beer, actually.
I'll take it. But the other thing is, I mean, we think of Bill Gates, who was one of my favorite rich guys, but he gives so much back to the planet, to the earth, and to people. But other than that, everybody else, I mean, maybe I'm like a loser in saying what I'm going to say. I don't want to come across like that. You don't want to accept and say, oh, well, I don't need to do any of that. But maybe you don't need to look at Bill Gates as your motivation. Maybe that doesn't motivate you, but to me, just getting motivated and taking a small step. And that I just read somewhere, and there's a whole book on it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's not about trying to get there right now. We have to understand also that part of a healthy step is sometimes the most critical. Taking that one healthy, could be a very small one, by the way, but to take that step, right? When you'll get to the end, it could take a lifetime. It could never happen also, but at least you're on the track. You're heading there.
It's the journey.
The journey,
is the
exactly.
reward.
And that's what the Mishnah tells us. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, your job is not to reach the end zone, but your job is never to stop trying to reach the end zone.
And avoid the people with the stumbling blocks.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's continue here. So
Yeah. Do we have that stumbling block thing in Judaism?
it's all over the place.
No, I know it's in Christianity. I'm just wondering.
No, it is. Isn't it? Is it in the? Is it
What do
in the?
you mean? We have a stumbling block every time you pull out of here. You say, you know what? Should I go to my pita or McDonald's? Which one? Right? So we have. So then we have which one? Right? And then you see the advertisement. Well, you get your entire dinner for $1.59 at McDonald's. You don't get ear in my pita for $1.59, right? So,
No, I'm just saying in our text. I know it's in Christianity.
No, it's in our text because
Don't put a stumbling block.
before a blind person. It was either an old
Is that in
sage, an
Proverbs
old
or
rabbi
something?
said it, or it's
well, that's the Torah says. The Torah tells us that. The
Yeah, the
Torah tells
Torah.
us not to put a stumbling block. Right, but and we shouldn't put a stumbling block in front of ourselves either.
right.
Many times,
Or be
the
aware of
biggest
those who do
the
it.
biggest stumbling block to our success is ourselves.
Yes.
Does it say anything about stepping stones?
rather than, you know.
A lot about stepping stones. And we'll get to it. Okay. Okay.
Last week about how the
That
it takes getting started.
it takes getting started, and that's the most important point. The most important part is getting started. And when I get into my diet phase, right? To me, it's not about going to the gym. It's getting ready to go to the gym, right? It's not about. I'm not trying to convince my Yetzer Hara. Okay, let's just go to the gym. No. It's let's put on my sneakers and change. That's the step. And once you're there, okay, we might as well go. I'm ready to go. But you have to trick yourself
That's the
to take that
duplicity.
first.
Duplicity.
Right. To take
That's
the
what
first step.
happened with Esau and, with Jacob and Isaac, was duplicity.
Well, you know that gym thing, I've found that if you hire a trainer, super motivation because you put money on the line. I mean, more than you
That's
need
true.
to. And you got this trainer
Wait a
person
second.
waiting for you at 5 a.m. and you're like going,
Wait a second, I've done that already.
but doesn't it work?
And I hired that
didn't work
trainer.
But didn't you show up?
I showed up until about 6 months ago. I told the trainer I'm finished. And I'm still paying my dues for me and my wife every month.
All right,
When's the
so-
last time we've been there?
Yeah, but
Right.
money doesn't mean anything.
Well, you
So-
got so much money.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we'll continue. One second. Let's continue.
The
Let's
trainer
continue.
doesn't always work.
For those of you online, you see, you're welcome to join us here live. Now we're back at the Torch Center, although we're not in our classroom yet. But you're welcome to join us. It's a very lively conversation. It's very hard to really experience this online. But either way, Will has the ability to pull together all the other strengths of a person to accomplish the desired goal. When a person has will, suddenly all of the other strengths, all of the other talents, all of the other facets of a human being come together to help you accomplish that goal. So, will works like the push of a button that lights up the path for you as you go. All right? So, all you got to do is you push that button and it lights up your path. As you walk, it keeps on lighting up in front of you. Right? It's not so difficult. We just have to take that first step, push the button. You're not going to push the button, it's not going to light up. Right? This is mainly in Israel you have that. You have when you go into a building, they have these buttons, and it turns on the light in the building, in the hallway, and then it gives you just about enough time to get to the top floor from the bottom, and then it turns off because they want to conserve on electricity. They don't want people forgetting the lights on in these different. So, the will to connect with the Almighty, just the will to connect with the Almighty, is already one of the closest levels to godliness. Right? Yes.
I'm just wondering, I mean, there's a flip side to this, where you can have the motivation and the will and the vision, like a Bernie Madoff, who had a vision and incredible what he was able to achieve. Now, that was not godlike, of course. I mean, how did God feel about that?
So every power that's given to mankind could be used for positive and could be used for negative. He took that power, that awesome power that he possessed, and used it for negative. Right? So yeah, that power that he had to, get support, to get investment, he used it in a negative way. He used it in a crooked way. The problem was, when it started, is that he convinced himself that it was okay. It's for a just cause.
Yeah.
It's, how many schools I support and how many institutions I help out. And it's sort of like, I'm doing more good with the stolen money from them than they would have done with themselves. So it's a mitzvah almost,
They're turning darkness into light.
Right, exactly. It's delusional. Right, but that's it's when it starts like that. That's the problem.
They keep fooling themselves
Right.
that they're going to
Exactly.
do the right thing with it.
If you will something very, very much, to be kind, or learned, or happy, right, the help will come from above. But again, you have to have the will. What a person truly wants is what will happen to them. And the reverse is true as well. After one's life, right, someone passes away, we always can determine something. Right? There's one thing everyone says, oh, this person was always a happy person. This person was such a kind person. This person was such a thoughtful person. This person was such a selfish person. Right? This person was, right, that you see a picture of what, right, but let's not wait till we're done and we checked out, right, for us to determine what we were willed with. My brother-in-law told me the story that he went to he was asked, he's an assistant rabbi, the main rabbi wasn't there, so he was asked to preside over a funeral and to lead the ceremony and to talk. So he wasn't the only speaker, and one of the children spoke, and the child said, Dad, there was no restaurant in 30 miles radius that you haven't been to. And he goes on for the next half hour talking about all the food that he ate and he loved, and all of the restaurants that he's been to, and it's like, it's bizarre, right? Like that's what you're saying at the funeral. Like this, he was very good at eating, at consuming. Is that what he was very good at? Right? I mean, I would hate if that's what someone said after I passed away. He was into his food, right?
He took such pleasure in the delight of eating.
So if that's what a person has at the end of it all, it's sad. It's painful. It's painful that's what's
all he can say about his dad.
And about his dad,
That
exactly.
would be like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
exactly. But you know what? I'm not sure that that's the way he saw it. Right? But again, we have to open up our eyes and see what's the path we're taking in our life. Where are we going? And to stop for a second and say, you know what? It's not too late. Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old before he knew the alphabet. Everybody here knew the alphabet before 40 years old. You're a step ahead. But he was determined to get to a certain place. And he became the leader of the Jewish people. And nothing stopped him. Okay? So, the reverse is true as well. After one's life, we can tell that what their true desires were. Sudden inspirational excitement is not will. Right? That falls into the category of easy come, easy go. That doesn't fall into the category of will. Right? When you wake up in the morning and you're excited about something, that doesn't infer will. That doesn't talk about will. Most people don't know what they want. That's the biggest problem. What do I want?
There's so many cool things out there to do.
Right, and that's also a problem, is that there's so many different things. So I want everything. No. Focus, right? It is such a deep power that it is ignored with a superficial life. Because every human being has this power of will. You want something, you can get it. You can get it. Anything that you wish. Right? I've seen once about this guy who does, he's called the jet man, he's called. And he has a knapsack that's a jet engine. And he flies it's called the jet man, right? Unbelievable. And the excitement, this has been a life's dream. He's been doing every type of flight, every type of jumping, every type of this, everything. He had this desire to fly like an airplane as a human, right? Right? Never stopped willing it, right? Do we have that with Shabbos? To be the perfect, to fly Shabbos, right? Not jet man, Shabbos man. Mitzvah man. visiting the sick man, right? Being that person, right? Who, we strive our whole lives to reach a perfection. That, you know what? When someone will insult me, someone will say something at me, I'll overcome it, and I'm going to be the forgiving man to attain perfection in that area. In a spiritual pursuit. Yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, okay. The Hebrew word for will is Ratzon, right?
Correct.
Ratzon. I have learned in the past that something to the effect, it says in the Torah that there's nothing stronger than one's will.
That's correct.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, well, it says that nothing stands in the way of will.
Of will.
Meaning, you even see it, by the way, that if God forbid someone is in a tragic situation, you've heard of, I'm sure, stories where people were in an accident and someone was trapped under the car. They just lifted up the car, right? They had again, that's the power of will. You have this supernatural power. We all have it. It's all embedded within us. We just have to pull it out and nurture it and make it work for us to accomplish the things we really want to accomplish. And not let it just, we live through life, whatever happens, whatever happens. Wherever I end up. Right? So you're 100% right. Yeah,
Isn't there a balance between both, though? In that way that you can be guided, you need to coast a little bit so that you can be guided. But
absolutely,
then,
we're going to talk about it hopefully soon in the Mussar. Sometimes you have to step out before you step back in.
Yeah.
Right? You have to analyze. All right? You just be as an outsider. You can't always be in the game. Sometimes you have to step out of the game. Just take a day off. Just take a glimpse as an outsider. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, so we'll get to that. That's also a very important step in the process of character perfection. If our original will is pure, everything that follows will have success. The original will determines the outcome. So a person I'm trying to figure out how to present this properly, okay? And that is that when people have a desire to do something, to volunteer someplace, they get inspired. Oh, I was at the dinner and I heard all about this organization. I want to volunteer. I want to be right. So, what was it that inspired them? Was it an inspiration because they saw how the people who were helping were acknowledged so nicely? They want to feel acknowledged. So it means a lot to me, this cause. So it's, again, it may be very good deeds, but what's the source of that good deed? Now, many people will say it doesn't make a difference. As long as you do a good deed, you do a good deed. Our sages don't say that, right? Well, it depends on with what. When it comes to the observance of Torah, the laws of the Torah, even if I don't understand, I'm not excited about the Shabbos, I still need to observe it, right? Shabbos doesn't say, oh, if you're in the mood, then great. If you're not in the mood, then it's fine. You get a waiver, right? It doesn't say that, right? But with regard to volunteering, it's best to volunteer than not volunteer because you're saying it's not 100% pure. But a person should make sure that all beginnings start pure. Right? A beginning of a marriage needs to be pure. A beginning of a year needs to be pure. A beginning of a child's life needs to be pure. Right? There's a certain element of, it's an amazing thing. I'm sure there's research. I haven't seen it yet. But why do people smile when they see a baby? It's an amazing thing. You see a little baby, even if the baby doesn't look at you, the baby's sleeping. People look and people smile. Why? Right, see, there's a purity, there's an innocence, there's a potential that people see.
Innocence.
You have a whole world in front of you, is what people see in this little child. And I think that's what brings people to smile and to have that joy. If our will is always to be pure and connected to Hashem, then we will always have Hashem pushing behind us. Right? If our will is to be close to God, He'll always be there pushing us to succeed and helping us, guiding us towards Him. We need to teach ourselves to infuse the power of will to everything holy and pure that we desire to accomplish. So it's not enough to have the will, but to do it with a purity, to do it with a holiness, because it is the if you already have that strength to get the thing accomplished, do it with purity. Might as well. It should be with a pure cause. It should be with a pure intention. All introspection should focus on the central idea of our will to be close to Hashem and have purity in our actions. Okay? So what is introspection? Introspection is when I review or analyze an experience or a desire or an action. So I do an act of kindness. Right? It's the halacha says that a person, before they go to sleep, they should introspect every night. Review your day. And there's a tremendous power with reviewing your day. Just thinking through. Start from the morning, all of the people you met, all of the interactions you had. Oh, you know what? I should have been nicer to that person. Mm-hmm. I could have said a kind word to that person. I could have not bragged about my own accomplishments in that conversation. And these things, when you are able to review it, that's called introspection, thinking into yourself. You know what? I know I go out there and I tell them all this greatness of all the things that are right, but maybe I should have been more truthful. Maybe I should have not taken so much credit for it. Maybe it's thinking into the things that we say and do and feel. Are they the right? Are they not right? But also to think, are they coming from the right place? I'm doing those acts of kindness. I volunteered. But why did I volunteer? What's the motivation behind it? Is the motivation really pure and holy? Or is the motivation just so that people can acknowledge me and can say, oh, yeshar koach, thank you, you're doing a great job, right? It's so nice what you do for the community. Oh, and that carries me along for the next 6 weeks, right? Right? Is that why I'm doing it? So a person has to get that introspection to what's really going on. Why am I doing this? Why am I motivated about what I'm motivated about? Okay. Will also means that I've left no stone unturned in my quest for perfection. Right? When we desire to get a certain place, and we're not going to let anything stop us, right? You want to travel someplace, you want to go on a vacation, right? So, there's something, something with the airline. So we go to a different airline. You go to a different airline, you miss the flight. You have things stumbling blocks that will come in before you. Are you going to let those things stop you? Right? And we all know that when someone really, really, really wills something, nothing stops them. Nothing. Right? And if someone doesn't want to, anything can stop them. And they'll tell you every excuse in the book, right? And we know that, they never wanted to begin with. Right? Okay. All right, there's still a lot more to discuss, and we are running a little bit over time. I don't know how much time people have. I don't want you to turn into pumpkins. But there's a special... There's a special sense of accomplishment that comes with a person who has will. When someone really wills something, when someone really desires, and they fight for it, right? And they're not going to let up. Whether it's with sales projections, right? They want to make a certain amount of sales this month. and they're going to push, and they're going to make those phone calls, and they're not going to stop. Right? The sense of accomplishment when someone wills, or, the people who commit themselves so bravely to study the daily folio of Talmud, the Daf Yomi. And every morning they get up and they study that daily daf. And then 2,711 days later, they finish the entire Talmud. It's the greatest accomplishment. But that takes a will. It doesn't just arrive one day. Right? So, there's still much to talk about. And maybe next week we'll dedicate still a few minutes to finishing up this topic of will. But Hashem should bless us all that we should not only identify the trait of willpower within us, but we should utilize it effectively to bring us closer to the Almighty and to accomplish the things that we so dearly want to before it's too late. Right? So, good luck, everybody. Right? On the mission in life, in going to accomplish the things that are really there for us to take, for us to accomplish. And imagine if everybody succeeded in getting what they wanted done, meaning having a will and going to get him, the world would be a totally different place. Right? So let's go change the world. All right? With that, my friends, thank you very much for joining us online. Thank you all for coming here today. And God willing, next week we're back here. Hopefully that room will be done. We'll be back in the Levitt Family Library classroom, and it's slowly all the pieces are coming together, and it's really, really exciting. So thank you very much for joining us online. Please don't forget to click like and share right there, and so that more people can learn and hopefully connect and grow, and always, for a more exciting experience, come live to the classes right here at the Torch Center. Thank you and have a great week, everybody.